this is Stephanie Ortega, and you're listening to the Remix Movement Podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you're checking us out. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Remix Movement. If you are looking at us on our YouTube, hi, I'm here again with this beautiful purple fluorescent color behind me. Still trying it out just to change things up a little bit. Thank you so much for, again, tuning in. Lewis says hello. And let's get into today's topic. Before we get in, I want to go ahead and do just a little bit of what we talked about in our last episode, episode 62. Lewis and I had a conversation about praise, and it was a really good conversation to basically talk about what it is, how it goes beyond the music, and also to give our top 5 praise artist band recommendations or suggestions. If you did not get a chance to listen to it, please go ahead and listen to episode 62. It is a beautiful treat. It's like a second part to the interview that we did with Will for episode 61 when we talked about worship. And the episode challenge for that episode was to take 2 artists that were recommended from the 4 lists. There were 2 top 5 praise lists, and there were 2 top 5 worship lists. So that's a total of 8. And just to be able to listen to their style of music, to be able to kind of connect to the lyrics, and be able to try out these praise and worship bands. Some of them you may have a lot in common with because you like their genre. Some of them you may like because it takes you to a presence with God that you've never had before. And we want you to continue to work in your relationship with God through praise and worship, being able to understand that a praise needs to be on your lips every single day. And that was our episode challenge for last episode. So I hope you're enjoying it. For today, Thanksgiving came a little bit early, all right? And let me explain a little bit. We do not have to wait until Thanksgiving holiday in November to talk about Thanksgiving. I feel like because the coronavirus pandemic is something that we're still going through, and a lot of people feel like it is slowing them down. It is something that is out of the norm. It's something we've never expected, never knew what we were going to go through. It's changing how we do work. We do work different. We go to school differently. We go to church differently, and we socialize differently because of this pandemic. And it allows us to really take the time to be a little bit more thankful for what's going on. Be a little bit more thankful of, the stop of this moment that we probably may never get for a really long time. But I want to talk about gratitude, and I want to talk about Thanksgiving, okay? So starting with this first verse, it's going to be 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, and it says, "When people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pain." Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I keep hearing a click. But whatever. All right. So 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. "When people are saying everything is peaceful and secure, then disaster will fall on them suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin, and there will be no escape." Isn't that a little bit of what we're feeling right now? We used to feel like life was going on and we were doing our day-to-day. We were waking up and going to school, going to work, all natural, like if it was just a regular day. And then all of a sudden, right before April, we're hit with something like this pandemic. And it literally has stopped the way that we used to live. And it's transformed the way that we do things now. And, the important thing is that even though we're still going through this pandemic, God is still there with us. God is still seeing how we're going through our day-to-day, and God is not going to leave us. He's going to continue to be there for us. He's going to continue to help us out so that we can be able to get over this pandemic, so that we can come through and have a testimony on the other side, so that we can see just how great He is and continue to be grateful for what He's been doing. And in that same book, I'm going to read a few more verses that have to do about Thanksgiving. And I do want to just reiterate the fact that you may be going through a really hard time, still trying to figure out things with this pandemic, but know that God is still there with you, okay? Verse 8 of this book, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, it says, "But let us live in the light and be clear-headed, protected by the armor of faith and love, and wearing as a helmet the confidence of our salvation." Like, we are a reflection of who God is, and God is light. So we are the light of the world, and he protects us from sin, from shame, from sickness, and he's going to continue to give you confidence so that you can get through this weird time of living that we're going through. And it's something that, again, not only are you going to be able to see how things are going, but you're also going to be able to be thankful for what you're learning through this time. You're going to get a little bit more of joy. You're going to get a little bit more of love. You're going to get a little bit more of faith during these times. And those are things that you have to be thankful for. And one of the best ways that we can keep our eyes on God and keeping our trust in him is by keeping our focus on what he has been doing in our lives. Now, verse 18 confirms that it's important for us to be thankful. It says, "Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Jesus Christ." Now, in this verse, there's two parts. The first part is understanding that we need to be grateful in all circumstances. So, what are all circumstances? When you have a job, when you don't have a job, be thankful. When you're sick and when you're not sick, be thankful. When you're stuck at home trying to get your kids to go to school online, and whether you're a student that's still thinking, hey, maybe I do want to go back to school physically and just wear my mask and social distance, regardless, be thankful. When you are having a difficult time balancing the fact that you have less hours than what you used to have, and regardless, if you're still full-time and even you're working harder and getting overtime, be thankful. When you're waiting for your miracle, because it hasn't happened yet, be thankful. When you get your answered prayer and you get the miracle, be thankful. In all circumstances, when you're fearful, when you're worried, when you're sad, when you're happy, when you've had a stressful day, be thankful, okay? Now, the other part of this verse is understanding that it is God's will for those who belong to Jesus Christ. It's God's will for you to be grateful. It's something that he asks for us to go ahead and do. And like we said before, giving thanksgiving to God and being thankful for what he's blessed you with is another way that we worship and we praise God. So how could God allow us to be thankful in such a hard time? He asked us to do it not knowing why we're going through it. See, sometimes we ask too many questions before we understand that our timing is not God's timing. God sees the whole picture. Even the stuff you haven't seen yet, he sees it. But even though you're in the middle of your timeline, you still have to be thankful. How are you going to be able to get over what situation you're going through? Be thankful. Have an attitude of gratitude and understand that you are going to come out of this greater because of the person that you have in your life. You're going to be able to show your kids just how awesome Christ is because you're giving thanks for the groceries you have in your refrigerator. You're going to be able to show your spouse that you trust in God because you're being thankful that you still have your certain hours at your job and you're still giving your tithes and offering. You're being thankful. God sees that, and it's his will that we continue to be grateful in all circumstances. Okay? So that's basically all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to let you guys understand that even in this weird situation that we're going through, even in, this pandemic, whatever part of your life you're going through, it's very important that we are thankful, that we understand that we need to give God thanks for who he is. I mean, he is a merciful God. He's a God who gives us grace. He's a God who gives us love. He's a God who shows us through our trials and tribulations that he remains faithful. So in this episode's challenge, I want you to take 2 minutes every day to write down 6 things that you're grateful for. A lot of people do this. It's called a gratitude journal. And I think it's a really good way that you can be able to physically see with your eyes just how great God has been in your life. Write down 6 things or 6 people or 6 places or 6 times in your life. Whatever it is, those 6 things, once a day, write them down, and then after you see them physically, just 6, give God thanks in a prayer. Now, make sure that as you're doing this, that every day is something different, because you can look back at it, and within that 1 week, you can be like, wow, God, like, I haven't repeated what I've been grateful for, and I see the numerous blessings that you've given in my life. That's another way of you recognizing just how powerful and great he is, okay? Now, a second part to this episode's challenge is check out our verses of the day starting tomorrow. On our Facebook and Instagram, on our stories, starting tomorrow, August 26th, we are going to be posting a new campaign that we have. It's going to be hashtag Heart of Thanksgiving, all right? And this is going to give you a reminder of how many times in the Bible he says to give thanks. There's so many different people that say to give thanks. Not only is it David the psalmist, but it's also Paul, and it's also other people in the Bible like Jeremiah or Ezra. All these different people in the Bible that have lived in times where they needed to be reminded that they have to give thanks to God. So that's going to be for the next month, which is about 32 days. If you start from August 26th to September 26th, check us out at the Remix Movement, and they're going to be on the stories. And again, it's going to be hashtag Heart of Thanksgiving. I know that there are going to be verses that are going to help you out. If you think that they touched your life, go ahead and share them with other people. Share them on your Facebook, on your Instagram. Send it as a text to other people. And just share the spirit of Thanksgiving, even though a lot of people who are not believers think that that only happens in Thanksgiving. No, Thanksgiving is an action that should be happening every single day. We're giving God thanks for who he is and how he's blessed us. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. This was episode 63. And tune in for an episode coming out before this weekend. I'm going to be doing another remix interview with a good friend of mine, and we're going to be talking about singleness. And this is going to be a really good conversation. We've talked about dating, and now we're going to talk about singleness in her life. So that's going to be our next remix interview in our next episode. Thank you so much, and God bless. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Remix Movement for more updates. Send us a DM with your feedback, questions, and any topics that you would like to hear in any of our future episodes. Thank you, and God bless.